There are a lot of parallels between music and language for how we think of them, how we create them, and how we organize them in our brains. One of the most crucial things to go over here is the concept of chunking. Our brains do better understanding units of information rather than each individual thing by itself. A telephone number is a great example of this. Instead of individual numbers, you get 3 groups of numbers with a rhythm. Bum bum ba, bum bum ba, bum 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 bum. Now, if we take this concept of chunking and we expand it, we start to see how our brain has these parallels between language and music. For example, at the lowest tier in language, we have letters, and those correspond to notes in music. The next tier up for chunking would be digraphs, noting that a C and an H make a ch, or an S and an H make a sh. Same thing in music would be 2-note intervals, or dyads. We go a tier up again, we get short words, which can be equated to basic senses of harmony, like triads. As we start to get longer words, we get full 7 chords, or maybe chords with extensions that are more jazz-oriented. Finally, we get to sentences in language, which can be compared to chord progressions in music. We have paragraphs, and we have song sections like the bridge or the verse, and then we have essays or full speeches, which are full songs and compositions. In fact, from those 5 major elements that I listed, all of them are inherent in language. For example, rhythm. As I'm speaking to you, there are breaks in my speech, and you are waiting for the next thing I say. There's a certain amount of rhythmicity or predictability and anticipation that is inherent in language. The next of the big 5 that I talked about was pitch. Now, there's prosody also in language, which means differences in pitch for different resolutions or exclamations. As we're speaking. If I pose a question, at the end, I tend to go up in my pitch. If I have a resolution and I'm telling you something, I tend to resolve downwards. Mononeon is an example of a person who takes this to the extreme and transcribes people's speech tone for tone. The next major element of music that I talked about was timbre. Now, our brain is evolutionarily wired to hear differences in people's voices, just like you know your mother's voice versus your dad's voice. This is because each of them have different distributions of frequencies and overtones that make them unique. This is exemplified in music when you have 2 different instruments playing the same pitch. A cello has a very different timbre than a piano, even if they are playing the exact same note. The 4th of the 5 that I talked about was dynamics. Now, our speech is very dynamic when we talk. Most people don't talk in a complete monotone without any variation in dynamic. What causes you to listen into someone is usually when they finish their sentence really quietly, or they exclaim something really loud. Finally, the last one, location. We are wired to pinpoint things in space using the differences in audio perceived at each ear. For the sake of these lessons, we're gonna stick with a left-right stereo image with 2 monitors, which is what most of you are working with back in your studios. Hopefully this analogy between language and music and how our brains perceive and create it has really helped you identify ways that you can systematically improve your musicianship faster, harnessing the power that your brain already has with language. So, if you're interested in diving any deeper with all this stuff, please take any of my packs into consideration, especially the custom pack where you can make 6 lessons just for yourself. If you haven't yet checked out the packs video, which details all of them, you can find it here. This is PlexusPlay signing off, and hope to talk and hear from you guys soon.